responded, "I don't know, but she's pregnant and she said it's yours." On hearing this, Ade angrily stormed to the door shouting, "Who is that crazy woman trying to pin me down with some stupid pregnancy that she cannot contain?" He stopped right at his track when he saw it was Eberechi. Once upon a time, there was this young man of 33 years old. His name was Ade. He was full of valor, strength, and had an appetite for life. He wasn't yet ready to settle down and enjoyed his freedom with more than one girlfriend in his life. One night at the club, he met a very beautiful and vibrant young woman named Eberechi. She was also there to have a good time, and they met at the club and then left together that night. And in the morning, they had shared a simple kiss just before saying goodbye. Eberechi, a skilled cosmetologist, had an established business while Ade was an IT guru. Both were very successful in their own right and didn't need each other's money. But at 31, Eberechi was feeling the pressure. She still hadn't found a man to call her own, and her biological clock was ticking. Her mother back in the village often reminded her of this, while her father reassured her that God's timing was best and she shouldn't rush into marriage. He encouraged her to love herself first, to take care of herself, and that the right man will come when the time was right. Eberechi preferred her father's understanding tone, but her mother, like many other mothers, would say, "Eberechi, you are attending all your friends' wedding. All your friends are getting married. What about you? What about you? When will your friend attend your wedding? When will you get married? When will you give me a grandchild? Because no when." Her mother would wail. The constant pressure wore on Eberechi, and more often, she found herself avoiding her mother's call. But when she did pick up, her mother's voice would be waiting. "So you are avoiding my calls now, eh? So you are avoiding my calls now, eh? Have you found a man yet? Have you? When are you going to get married?" Her mother would continue to scream. One day, while at work, a clean-cut, handsome young man in fitted white shirt and blue trousers walked into Eberechi's office. The air was electric. Every woman in the room noticed him. His top button was unbuttoned, and his shirt hugged his chest, tempting anyone who glanced to imagine unbuttoning his button further down. All eyes were on him as he carried himself as if unaware of his effect on the women. With a charming smile, he walked up to Eberechi, who was focused on a client's skin consultation. When their eyes met, both were surprised. "Hey, what are you doing here?" they both said, smiling as they hugged. Ade smiled and said, "Hey girl, what are you doing here?" "I own this place," Eberechi replied with a hint of pride in her voice. "Wow," Ade said, impressed. "You are a big girl now, oh." "Oh, come on, it's just God," Eberechi replied, smiling shyly. Ade could see how she responded to him, her shy smile revealing everything. "My younger sister is getting married and she insisted I book you for her pre-wedding night. She said, if I can't have you, she will have my head, so I have to make sure I come down here. And I didn't know it was you. What a small world. Are you too busy for that?" he asked. "Busy, K. Anything for you," Eberechi replied. "Really? That's great," Ade said. "By the way, would you mind accompanying me to my sister's wedding in Abuja? It's on the 5th of next month." "I would love to," Eberechi replied, smiling. Ade then leaned closer, gently placing his hand on her shoulder, and pulled her in softly, and then gave her a soft peck on her left cheek just before leaving. As soon as Ade left, Eberechi's colleague Nora rushed over to her side and said, "Hey, Eberechi, you never told me you had such a cute boyfriend now, wow." "Boyfriend?" Eberechi startled, but quickly went silent, a slight blush creeping onto her cheeks. For the rest of the day, her colleagues and Nora teased her relentlessly. At home, Eberechi rested on the sofa, seeking a quiet moment, but Ade's image kept flashing through her mind. The way he gently kissed her and pulled her in so smoothly and gently. She shivered, thinking about what it might be to date him, to actually call him a man. Meanwhile, over at Ade's place, a young lady named Bumi had just left. He flopped onto the sofa, deep in thoughts, and Eberechi's face flashed through his mind and he smirked, thinking of himself, I go chop this girl. I go chop this girl. That babe, I'm just beating my time. 2 days later, Ade stopped to pick up Eberechi, saying he wanted to get to know her better before they traveled together to Abuja for the wedding. They went out for lunch, talking and laughing, enjoying each other's company. This routine continued over for the next 2 weeks, and Eberechi felt like God had blessed her with this charming young man. Ade was also enjoying the ride. He admired her class, her intelligence, and the ease she brought into his life, but he kept his emotions in check, not wanting any real attachment with her yet. When Eberechi visited him, she never stayed over. He hadn't asked her out yet. After all, she made sure that he also left her house when he visited. They shared a few kisses here and there, a few touches here and there, and even Ade took her shopping once in a while, and she sometimes reciprocates by buying him expensive gifts, which he also appreciated. One evening, Ade took Eberechi to a hangout with his friends. When she excused herself to go to the ladies' room, his friend Ifeanyi nudged and said, "Omo, Ade, you be strong boy. Haba, you don't settle down, no. Ha! This babe na serious catch. Settle down, ke. Me, #1 confirmed player," Ade replied, laughing along with his friends. "I never settled that, I just want to chop this babe." Unknown to him, Eberechi had returned in time just to hear the exchange. Her heart sank as she sat back with a changed expression. When Ade asked if something was wrong, she simply replied, "I'm fine," and he continued enjoying the evening, seemingly oblivious to her mood. When Ade dropped her off later, he leaned in to give her a good night peck, but she avoided it gracefully. "Good night," she said, and went inside. In her living room, she switched on the lights and her phone rang. It was her dad checking in on her. As soon as her dad passed the phone to her mother's familiar voice started, "Eberechi, where is your husband now? When is he coming to see us?" Eberechi, frustrated, ended the call abruptly. Her mother called and called, but she refused to pick the phone. Back in the village, Eberechi's father warned his wife Gloria to stop pressuring their daughter. Then he said, "Gloria, you are putting too much pressure on our daughter Eberechi," he said firmly. Gloria retorted, "So, you don't want our daughter to get married, Abi? You don't want her to give us grandchildren? Look at Mama Chidinma. Look at Mama Nneka. Their daughters are already getting married. Our own is not even getting married, not even bringing any grandchildren. You are there talking. Our daughter is just walking around Lagos doing nothing. Others are producing." She began to cry, trying to manipulate her husband with her tears. Then her husband sighed and then replied, "Gloria, your tears, you can't blackmail me with your tears. I know you. We have been married for over 33 years and I know all your tricks. Please, I'm warning you, leave our daughter alone. Leave our daughter alone before you push her to something that you will regret. She knows what is good for herself, so leave her alone. You are doing more harm than good." When Ade got home, he thought, "Wetin dey do that one sef? I tried to give am peck, they do guy. Wetin dey do that one? Abeg, wetin I do now? Wetin I do? That's why I don't want to date women. Women are their wahala. Abeg, make she go rest, jare, make I give am time." At Eberechi's place, she was rethinking her decision to attend the wedding with Ade. She no longer was interested in going, but her services had been fully booked for 3 good days. The hotel and flight expenses fully paid. So she decided to go purely as a work commitment. On the day of their flight to Abuja, they met at the airport by chance, and they both ended up sitting next to each other on the plane. An awkward silence hung between Eberechi and Ade. Eberechi took up a magazine, flipping through it without actually reading it, but was fuming inside her. Ade, feeling uneasy, finally broke the silence. "Eberechi, Why are you acting so cold towards me? What have I done to you now? Eberechi replied coldly, Nothing. Nothing is wrong. Why do you think I'm acting coldly towards you? Ade persisted. You have been distant. You barely respond to my messages. You hardly pick up my calls. And now I'm sitting right beside you and I feel this cold air between us. What's going on? Eberechi set the magazine down. Look, Ade, I'm not a child. I know what I want and I don't need a player in my life. Besides, what are we even doing here? What exactly are we doing here? Explain it to me. Ade replied smoothly. We are friends now. We're enjoying each other's company. Is there anything wrong with that? Eberechi looked at him with cold in her eyes. This is not what it feels like. But if that's all we are, then I no longer want to be your friend. Friends don't go on date nights. Don't share little kisses here and there. Don't touch each other the way me and you do. So if that's what you call friendship, then I am out. Ade looked taken aback as he could feel her slipping away. Well, do you want it to be more than that? What do you mean, Ade? She asked. Why do you keep seeking me out? I thought you liked me. But you never asked me out. You just want to chop and run. So I'm confused. What are we really doing here? Ade realized he had to up his game and then replied, all right, sweetheart. You are my babe now. You are my girlfriend. Do I have to spell it out? Do I have to? Are we cool now? Eberechi gave him a very hard look. If I'm your girlfriend, then why did you tell your friend you are a player and you just want to eat and run? Why did you tell them that you are not ready to settle down? Ade laughed heartedly. Oh, that's why you have been acting up. Oh, come on, love. That's just boys bragging. Come here, my dear. He pulled her close and kissed her so deeply. And when he was done, she was flushed and speechless for the entire flight. Ade felt a soft, warm feeling for her, and for once, he didn't try to fight it. When they got off the flight, Ade's phone rang and he excused himself to take the call, telling her it was from work. The call was actually from work, but from Bumi, a work colleague of his who is actually dating. Both of them were just having a fling with each other. After he wrapped up, they headed for their hotel. Upon checking into the hotel, Ade suggested that since they were now officially dating, she should stay with him in his own suite since his was better than hers and had better facilities. She wanted to refuse, but he cupped her face gently, kissing her forehead and whispering softly into her ears. Eberechi, you know I miss you now. Don't do this to me. I want to be with you. I can't imagine myself without you. Don't do this to me, Eberechi. Weakened by his words and the moments, Eberechi finally gave in. That night, the air conditioning was very chilly and Ade used it as an excuse to snuggle up to her. And Eberechi was also in her 90s. That night grew so hot with tension, and tension built up between both of them. And eventually, one thing led to another, and it happened. But Ade was wise enough to use protection, knowing that no matter how deep their emotions went, he was not crazy to take chances. And when it was over, they drifted off to sleep in each other's arms. In the morning, Eberechi woke up to Ade's smile, feeling his warmth all over her. He surprised her with breakfast in bed, and she was thrilled, thinking that God had finally blessed her. Now she thought, how do I turn this man to marry me? How do I gently nudge him to propose to me? He's so nice and caring. At least now, if I present him to my mother will back off and I'll feel less pressure. What do I do, oh God? Throughout the wedding preparation, Eberechi was focused on her work, impressing Ade's sister Sumi, who was pleased with her services and then gave her a generous tip. During the ceremony, Eberechi watched Ade interacting with children and her heart melted. At one point, one of their relatives handed him their 6-month-old son for him to hold until she came back. Ade took the baby, happily playing with the baby, and the baby giggled and giggled until the mother returned. Smiling at Eberechi, Ade said, "Aren't children wonderful? Pure-hearted, not like us. One day I would love to have my own when I'm ready." Eberechi looked at him intently. "When do you think that will be?" Ade gazed at her lovingly and saying, I don't know. Maybe someday when I'm ready. As the wedding celebration continued, Ibrichi found herself wondering, since he likes children, what if I get pregnant from him? If I get pregnant, he'll be forced to marry me. Maybe if I carry his child, he'll be ready for marriage, don't you think? This thought lingered, and soon she had decided to take on that chance. Later that evening in the wedding, she made sure that Ade was tipsy and a little bit drunk. And as they returned to the hotel, right there in the hallway, they were all over each other. And then they found themselves to their room. One thing led to another. And then they slept with each other, tangling in each other's body. And then they woke up the next morning. When Ade woke up, he felt a pang of regrets. He was very upset with himself for not being cautious, realizing he hadn't used protection. After the Thanksgiving service that Sunday, he asked Eberichi if they could find a pharmacy, but they had no luck finding one. So when they got back to the hotel room and they were packing, he gently said to her, Eberichi, last night was a wonderful one for me and you, but I'm not ready to have a child and I didn't use protection. Please, we need to do something about this. You need to take the pills. I'm not ready yet to have a child. Eberichi looked at him with a little bit of anger in her heart. You are not ready? So why did you do it with me? Come on, babe, said Ade. I'm not yet emotionally or psychologically ready to have a child now. Please take this money and get pills, please, to avoid anything unexpected. Eberichi felt a sting of hurt. So last night was just a fling to you, Abi? It was just a fling to you, Abi? No, babe, try to understand, Ade said, trying to hold her gaze. I love you, but it's not yet time for me to have a baby. We just started dating, please. Well, if you say so, she replied, her voice tingled with disappointment. But we have been seeing each other for 2 months now, even if we weren't serious then. We are now serious. What's wrong? And am I even pregnant? I'm not. Ade then pleaded to her, Eberichi, please, let's not argue. Please, let's not take chances. Please, this is 50,000 naira. Please take it. When you get home, buy the pills and take it. I promise you, I will marry you when the time is ready. Eberichi was very quiet, torn between her feelings and his words, and then said, okay, I will do that. Don't worry, I will. And then she took the money from him. For Ade, this was just a wedding thing, and that was all. Once he got back to Lagos, he was planning to call it off. He didn't want to have anybody tie him down. Life was too sweet to be limited with one woman. As he thought to himself, plenty soup dey to chop now, why I go chop only one soup? When they arrived in Lagos, Eberichi leaned in to kiss him, but he softly pulled away, reminding her to take the pill, and then they parted ways. Later, Ade called Eberichi to confirm if she had taken the pill, and when she said she had, he was relieved that he did not know when he muttered, "Thank God." Slightly offended, Eberichi ended the conversation. Deep down, she could feel something was wrong. Ade had changed. She thought that if she kept her distance from him for a while and held on to the pregnancy, maybe he would miss her and call her back. So she decided to take that step and not to reach out to him again. But 1 week turned into 1 month and still Ade hadn't called. She finally gave in and called him, and when he picked, he apologized, saying that work kept him so busy. And then she asked him to come over, and he said he was so busy that he wasn't even around. She asked if she could come over. He made excuses. And said he was too busy for her to come over and that he wasn't even around again. When she insisted, he brushed her off, telling her not to bother and that when he was around, he would inform her. But then she was almost 2 months pregnant because she skipped the pill. One day, Eberichi called and told Ade, "It's Sunday. Can I come over? It's been 2 months since I've seen you." Ade claimed he wasn't around, but then she decided to go and check if truly he wasn't around and went straight to his house. On getting to his house, she saw his car parked right outside and music was coming from his house. She went straight to the door and knocked on the door. And when she knocked on the door, The door opened. A young, beautiful woman answered. And from inside, she could hear Ade saying, "Sandra, darling, who is at the door?" Sandra responded, "I don't know, but she's pregnant and she said it's yours." On hearing this, Ade angrily stormed to the door shouting, "Who is that crazy woman trying to pin me down with some stupid pregnancy that she cannot contain?" He stopped right at his track when he saw it was Eberechi. "Eberechi, I thought I told you I wasn't around. What are you doing here?" "Clearly, I see you don't want me here," she said. "That's why you lie. So I'm just a game to you, Ade. You got me pregnant and I'm carrying your child." "My child?" Ade exclaimed. "But I gave you money to take care of it. I told you to take a pill. Why? And I called you. You told me you took the pill." Eberechi started crying. "So this is your plan all along? To use me and dump me? What did I ever do to you, Ade? What did I do to you, Ade? Why couldn't you just leave me alone? Why couldn't you just leave me alone? You remember you begged me. Are you a small girl?" Ade snapped back. "Besides, I gave you 50,000 naira to buy the pill. You could have bought a whole carton with that." Through her tears, Ade asked, "So what do you want me to do now? What are we going to do?" "We? There's no we," Ade replied coldly. "This is on you. I told you I wasn't emotionally or psychologically ready for a child," he continued. "Please take care of this mess and don't tie me with this load you are carrying in that belly of yours." Devastated and humiliated, Eberechi broke down into tears. Sandra, witnessing the scene, quietly packed her things and left, telling Ade that she was out and she couldn't stand a man who could treat another woman the way he was treating Eberechi. But instead of Ade to attend to Eberechi, he ran after Sandra, begging her to stay and that it was all a mistake. Sandra then said to him, "Ade, please clean up your mess. I won't be your next victim." And then she turned away and left. When Ade returned, Ade pleaded with Eberechi to go home, promising her that he will come and see her the next day. Reluctantly, she agreed. But when she returned home, 2 days later, she received a transfer of 5 million naira from Ade, along with a text message telling her to get rid of the pregnancy and denying that he was the father of that child. A week later, Eberechi went back to Ade's place since he was not picking up her phone. Then, when she got there, she found out that he had vanished off the face of the earth. His phone was switched off, his car was no longer there, the house was empty, there was no curtain. The neighbor said he had packed out 4 days ago and he didn't say a word. She didn't know where he worked. He had just disappeared. Even on social media, all his accounts was blocked. All his accounts, she couldn't reach him again because he had blocked her. The only link she had to him was his sister, Sumi, who hired her for her wedding. Desperate and seriously in need, Eberechi reached out to Sumi, explaining everything. Sumi sympathized with her, but also warned her of the consequences of trying to pin a child on her brother, knowing full well that her brother was a playboy. And then Sumi said, "I wonder what you were doing with my brother. I know my brother was a playboy and I didn't know what exactly you were doing with him, but I couldn't say anything. I thought maybe he has changed. But I don't know what to do. Just take heart and God will be with you." That was what Sumi said. And Eberechi's hope was shattered. No Ade, no marriage, no boyfriend, and even her mother would be deeply ashamed of her, and she could never return to the village. And the only person she could only confide in was her father. And then she called her father, telling her father not to tell her mother. Her father was deeply disappointed, but also sympathetic. In part 2, what do you think will happen?